I saw this job opening for the University of Cincinnati, and it mentioned that they wanted to start a student radio station.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Cox, and I am currently the BTV director of Bearcast.
I'm Meredith. I was a past metal music director twice, and program director.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Frank. I was sports director, still am sports director technically.
So I was the general manager and I was the assistant sports director, apart from having some on-air radio shows.
I came up with Bearcast because I think they sent it out in the news record or something where they're like, hey, we're looking for a name for our radio station. And I was sitting in class, probably not paying attention. And I was like, oh my gosh, that just makes sense. Just change the two letters from Bearcast to Bearcast. And I emailed, is it Dr. John Owens? And then he invited me and I got to meet everybody on the staff. And he goes, yours was the best submission. And by the way, it was the only one. So we went with it.
Well, I got into Bearcast because of an upperclassman named Abby Tompkins, who I was meeting with her to talk about e-media. And she said to me, she said, hey, I run this organization called Bearcast. We meet on Thursdays at 6:30. There's free pizza. I think you'd really like it. You should come.
I was an electronic media major, which is now media production. And I had been a DJ since I was, 13. And I think it was, my freshman, maybe my sophomore year, there was just these conversations in the hallways about we're starting a radio station. There was no radio station at the time. And there just started to be these conversations led by Dr. Owens about launching a new school radio station that would actually be over campus cable. So I started just going to the meetings. And, at the times I started going to the meetings, it was literally just a group of people saying, how do we do this?
So the way I got involved into Bearcast was through Dr. Owen's Student Media Practicum my sophomore year. Essentially, it's a course that gets all e-media students into Bearcast for at least a semester, just so they are aware of the organization and that they can be a part of it. During the first meeting, I saw the business director and he explained his position and I thought it was super interesting.
But I'm pretty sure when I transferred from the College of Arts and Sciences to CCM's electronic media program, just trying to make friends. And I had a friend in the e-media department who said that there was this college radio program called Bearcast and he had a show, and would that be something I was interested in?
My sophomore year was my first official year in e-media, or now media production. And I saw flyers everywhere when I would go to classes, and I thought, that sounds cool. And I literally just looked it up on Instagram and found the first meeting, and I just showed up, and BTV really caught my eye. So I talked to the director at the time, Brendan Mitchell, and he was looking for a producer, and I said, that's exactly what I want to do. That's exactly what I've been looking for.
So I first started my college career at the University of Buffalo, and I joined the radio club there. I'd always wanted to be a broadcaster in sports, in particular hockey. When I transferred back home to Cincinnati, because my parents I grew up in Cincinnati, and I found out about the radio station and want to continue to kind of push towards that goal of working in professional sports. And so I joined the club. I started my own radio show soon thereafter with a friend of mine. We had a show called The 5-Minute Major.
I first learned about Bearcast actually just through Instagram. And I always thought that it would be cool to have like a radio show, and I never even thought about the concept. And, next thing you know I was asking Alex, hey, can I join Bearcast Media and have my own radio show? I was really trying to connect to my music side because I was an engineering major at the time, and I've never looked back since.
I got involved in Bearcast because I knew about it since high school. So I, as you may know, or could imagine, was very much into the local music scene in Cincinnati growing up. When I would go to shows at Rose Street Cafe and the Milford Street Festival, just events that would happen around Cincinnati, sometimes there would be a table from an organization from UC called Bearcast Media.
Years they were educational years in a lot of ways, but it's definitely one of those things where I was lucky to hear about it even before I became a student at UC, and I would. When I think about it, I would cite it as one of the big positives and one of the things that I weighed when I was a high school senior.
It actually was kind of random. I remember in July leading up to my freshman year, I was just kind of randomly browsing the web, trying to see if there was any way that at UC where I could, develop as a young aspiring sportscaster, and I stumbled across Bearcast Media, and I'm like, ooh, this could be interesting. This might be something that's right up my alley. It led me to contact Christina Drobny, who was a former member at Bearcast. Have a lot of respect for her and appreciation for what she did for me and what she did for the organization.
I listened to sports talk radio growing up, and that's what I wanted to move into. And I saw the student radio station, and I was like, I want to have a sports talk show. That's the first thing I want to do.
I remember stopping by the Bearcast booth, hearing a little bit about it. And I ended up attending a meeting. I was really interested in starting a radio show, which is how I really got my start in Bearcast.
First year, hearing about, volunteering with the studio and just helping out. And I'm sure it was like one of those introductory classes to e-media that they had at the time. I don't know if they still have them. But yeah, I think it was in there. They mentioned like, oh, there's this thing called Bearcast, and if you're interested in getting involved. And one of my high school buddies just so also happened to be in the same program. He was interested in doing a show or doing something. And so he and I joined.
I remember I never felt like super intimidated or scared to like get my foot in the door into Bearcast. All of the directors have always, like all of the past ones, they've always been super eager to help new people learn. Like that's what you're here for as a director, is to help everyone kind of develop their own skills in Bearcast and find their own potential in it. Like especially touring the studio spaces and thinking of like all the things that you can create, being part of that organization is super exciting and definitely something that draws you into Bearcast for sure.
There is no way I can pick one favorite memory.
My favorite memory looking back on Bearcast would have to be the last time we were organizing our Live on Shortvine event. My job as business director was to reach out to local businesses in the area and try to find any venues for music artists that we had for the event. This was really fun because it was the first real world experience that I got, that with really talking to actual business owners and negotiating deals with them. And it was just kind of thrilling to be a part of something that was that big in scale.
My first Live on Shortvine planning it was definitely one of my favorite memories from Bearcast. It was my junior year, and if I'm looking at the poster on my wall, that is literally the Live on Shortvine lineup. It was 2018. And it was just amazing. I mean, I am a music person for sure. That was like my favorite part about Bearcast, and certainly a local music person. And so being able to put on a festival with all these like amazing acts from Cincinnati and having it be free and really just like a showcase and a celebration of that community is seriously an experience that I'm never going to forget. Like it was just so it made me so proud to look around and see that this is what my friends and I have been working on, and we brought all these people together and are impacting the community.
So my junior year, I was the artist relations director, as you know, and so a big part of that role is putting together Live on Shortvine. So I think one of my favorite parts of Bearcast was kind of like seeing everything come together the day of the event, because you literally put in like hours and hours and hours of work planning it, and actually seeing everything in person come together. It's a nice reward. It's really satisfying, I think.
We had this show created by Tommy Rochester called Cincinnati, and every so often we'd have our writing meetings for each show, and then like shoot that Friday. And the writing meetings were so fun to go to. We would just bounce ideas off each other, and I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I did like in those meetings. And then being able like to shoot after that, just through like the evening and night, it was so much fun. I loved working with those people, and I would go back to that time like any day.
On the Bearcast side of things, I was trying to remember, I like opened up some old hard drives today and was like, I wonder if I have any of my air checks or any of my ads that I made. And like, I came across this jingle that we had that was like the terrible song of the week. And it was just like this goofy thing where it was just fun to be like tongue in cheek. I had a show running long term with my friend Caitlin Beal. And that was just a lot of fun to do for a very long time. But also, like, I think for me, it was building the promos for Bearcast to say like what we are. And I remember this thing where we had at the time, these bands may not, for people who are in Bearcast, may not even be relevant anymore, but it was like, we cover everything from Horse the Band to Bears versus Horses. And it was like these two bands at the time that were like in the indie scene that were like, one was very indie and mellow, one was very hardcore. And it was just fun to say like, hey, this is our identity, and put it out there and think about like, how do we sell like the station to our listeners?
My friend Zach and I, who were in E-Media together, we had a radio show. We had a show together called White on Rice. And I remember we got the opportunity to interview someone from the band called Of Montreal. And I just couldn't believe that this guy even wanted to talk to us and wanted to talk to a couple students that didn't know what we were doing. So
we had a large NFL draft preview show, and it was a big, giant production that we did with a bunch of different people. And so that was the year that Tim Tebow was coming out of Florida, and I drafted for my the East Division so that I could draft as my Buffalo Bills. And everyone gave me a lot of shit for it, but I drafted Tim Tebow in the first round, and everyone said there's no chance that he was going to go in the first round. And I'm pretty sure if you look back on history, you'll find that Tim Tebow went in the first round.
I think the coolest memory, former UC basketball player and NBA player, Corey Blunt, that was a lot of fun. He's a really cool guy, and I'm not sure if he's still in the Cincinnati area or not, but having him live in studio and just getting to pick his brain on what his career was like, both at UC and in the NBA, was absolutely fascinating.
The 2019 conference tournament for men's basketball at Memphis, Ethan Bastian, Caitlin Zalanuski, and yours truly, we went to Memphis for the conference tournament. It was incredible, an incredible experience to be able to travel, go on the road, commentate a game.
One of my favorite memories had been going to the College Music Journal conference. When I became a director, there were opportunities that Dr. Owens gave us to go to New York, is where this conference was held. It was a really unique and very independent kind of fun event. One of the super cool parts about this about that conference, like I said, I don't know if it's still around, but when I went, is that they had different concerts going on every night of the conference in different boroughs, and so you got to go travel to the different boroughs. And
doing my own radio show, I loved. Thursday nights for about 3 or 4 years were mine, and one of the beauties of internet radio, especially early on, like I said, it wasn't the norm. I could send this link to friends and family all over the world, and they could listen to my show.
There's a very clear through line of like how Bearcast changed my life.
It's not an overstatement to say Bearcast completely changed my life.
Bearcast changed my life. It has taught me so much about myself and so much about leadership. And I've really been able to come out of my shell. Believe it or not, I actually did not talk to many of my directors for most of last year. I would just sit in my little corner and I would take notes at the meetings, and I was too afraid to talk to anybody. And look at me now. I've made friends that I hope will continue to be my friends throughout the rest of my life.
You learn a lot of different things. And there's the actual hands-on learning, going to the Queen City sessions and, how do we set up these microphones to capture like the drums, for example. I'm like literally learning hands-on things like that, learning editing, learning, how to plan for music festivals. So there's a lot of those smaller skills that you learn over time. But I think like something that really challenged me was serving as the general manager, just because it's such a different role compared to like artist relations, where I was actually planning this big event. I had a task. Now, instead of doing that, I was in this position where I was, managing a whole team of people and working with everyone.
Better. I am so grateful to say I have the experience of being in charge of a studio and like scheduling and going in, meeting with people and being able to run a show. I think that, puts me at a higher advantage of getting a job when I graduate, because producing in TV and film is just exactly what I wanted to do, and having this experience just helps so much.
So the way that I would say Bearcast impacted me the most is that it gave me an opportunity to be a leader during a time that, in a space that I was uncertain if I could lead. And so it was actually one of the first real adult experiences that I had being in a leadership opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to hone in your skills as a leader and continue to develop.
Bearcast gave me so many different skills. It made me so versatile, just in terms of, the audio side of things, basically teaching me how to do a show, how to host a show, on the radio side of things, and then hosting a video show, and then learning how to edit video, learning how to shoot video. I mean, all that I did in Bearcast, and it has been instrumental into what I do today.
I look back and, I feel proud because I kind of feel like being in the group of students that was part of those, early years, those first groups that were kind of trying to shape the station and turn it into what it is in an era, before social media and before broadcast technology is what it is today. That's it almost makes me feel like a pioneer in a way.
You get some of that like production management experience, because there is some room to experiment and some room to grow, and like a lower pressure situation than being said like, here's a paycheck, make it happen.
The biggest way that Bearcast has influenced my life has to be the perspective that it offered me in terms of what real world production is going to be like, especially when it comes to managing budgets. This has to be the largest budget that I've ever managed because of the scale of this organization. So it really, like I said, gave me some perspective as to if this is the route that I want to take.
I would say that I am much more of a creative strategic thinker because of Bearcast. I think that with all of the different avenues that Bearcast is involved in, from radio to television, podcast, live shows even, you really have to, there's a planning aspect to all of it. But at the end of the day, you're doing fun, creative stuff with all your friends. And so I think that Bearcast has instilled in me a need to do those kinds of creative and also like mentally stimulating things with people that I respect and enjoy being around.
I was in Intro to eMedia, and as a general manager, I went to go and talk to the incoming freshmen about all of the different opportunities that exist within the eMedia division. And so I went and talked to everyone about Bearcast, and I ended up seeing a girl who had a band sticker on her computer, and it was a band that I had interviewed a year before. And at the time, Bearcast streaming was I'm going to say this as politely as I can, but it was real shit. I'm not sure anyone could ever hear or listen to us because it was more down and never worked than up. And so when I told her in the middle of the class that I had actually interviewed that band, and she said, I know I was listening. Well, I was shocked because I didn't know anyone could listen to the station because at the time it was not working very well. But I ended up marrying her 6 years later.
Did Dr. Owens officiate your guys' wedding?
It is true. He did officiate our wedding.
And that's what I've learned. How to interact with people, how to have passion for what you do, how to love what you do, and how to work hard. There's so many great things that I've learned interacting with people, different kinds of people in this business. I mean, it's a very diverse business in terms of the kinds of people that you meet in the sportscasting industry. So many great memories.
Really, you need to hone in on your skills and dedication for everything. Because even if you have a great idea, you really need to work hard to go through with it. And that's definitely something that Bearcast has been teaching me the past couple years, especially in a director position. Nothing really replaces the experience of having a radio show with your best friends, listening to music, talking about whatever you want. So it's definitely changed as the times have, but I think definitely the core of Bearcast Media is still just as it was 20 years ago.
It's been an absolutely amazing journey. You know, and I think that's kind of how Bearcast has changed my life. It's introduced me to a lot. I mean, surface level of, software skills like Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and Photoshop. But overall, it's just been a great opportunity to meet and talk to other really exciting creatives. During this time of 100% virtual reality, it's really nice to be able to talk and just hang out with other people on Zoom, on WebEx, at Mios. It's been really fun. And, lastly, I think the call to action for any and every Bearcast member is to just join. Just go to our first meeting. Go to any meeting because you're never too late to be a creative.
I want to just take a second and thank everybody who has been a part of this week and all of the alumni who've gone through Bearcast and helped make it what it is today. And a special thanks to all of our current directors and an even more special thanks to Dr. Owens. We could not have done this without you, and I am absolutely honored to be a part of Bearcast Media. Happy birthday, Bearcast.